From North America's dense forest to the Himalayas' isolated highlands, stories of strange creatures that lurk just beyond the veil of our understanding have been passed down through generations. These cryptids, based between the realms of myth and reality, are a tapestry woven from the fears, folklore, and whispers of our cultures worldwide. Are these beasts mere legends born of superstition, or do they hide in the dark corners of our world, waiting for the moment they are finally revealed? The hunt for answers begins. But remember, some things are better left undisturbed. Welcome to Myth and Lores, a journey into the dark and divine. Without further ado, let's jump into another lore. The Wendigo is one of the most haunting and terrifying figures in North American folklore, particularly among indigenous peoples of the northern forests such as the Algonquian, Ojibwe, Cree, and Innu nations. It is often described as a malevolent, cannibalistic spirit or creature associated with extreme greed, starvation, and a loss of humanity. The lore surrounding the Wendigo is deeply symbolic, tied to isolation, survival, and moral corruption themes. The origins of the Wendigo myth vary slightly between cultures. Still, it is generally seen as an evil spirit or a transformed human driven by an insatiable hunger for human flesh. The name Wendigo is derived from the Algonquian word Wendigo, which means evil spirit or the spirit of hunger. This term describes both the creature and the state of mind it embodies. The Wendigo is believed to be a spirit that preys on the weak and isolated. It is often described as a gaunt, skeletal being with glowing eyes, long claws, and a mouth filled with sharp, jagged teeth. Its body is emaciated, yet it is cursed with endless hunger for human flesh. The creature is said to grow in size the more it eats, but its hunger never abates. No matter how much it consumes, it is forever starving. This represents the insidious nature of greed, as the Wendigo's insatiable appetite is a metaphor for unchecked gluttony and desire. The most disturbing aspect of the Wendigo myth is the belief that a person could become a Wendigo. This transformation is typically associated with the extreme conditions of starvation during harsh winters when survival in remote northern forests could become a brutal life or death struggle. According to the legend, someone who resorts to cannibalism to survive may become possessed by the Wendigo spirit, turning into a horrific monster. The person loses their humanity, consumed by an unrelenting need to feast on others. This transformation is often linked to greed and selfishness. Once the Wendigo spirit possesses a person, they are said to be driven to hunt down other humans to feed their insatiable hunger, regardless of the moral cost. The Wendigo myth also carries a deep psychological element, warning against the dangers of losing one's humanity in the face of extreme circumstances. It's said that the Wendigo spirit represents the primal urge to devour others for personal gain. This fear of the Wendigo can be seen as a way of reinforcing social norms, warning against selfishness and greed, which, if allowed to grow unchecked, can turn one into something monstrous. The Wendigo's hunger symbolizes not only physical, but also emotional and moral starvation. This idea is mirrored in certain modern interpretations where the Wendigo is viewed as a manifestation of unbridled capitalism, consumerism, or environmental destruction, forces that consume without end, leaving ruin in their wake. The Wendigo's myth has made its way into popular culture over the years, becoming a staple of horror literature, films, and video games. It often appears as a terrifying monster, sometimes with supernatural powers capable of inducing madness, extreme cold, or even the ability to mimic voices to lure victims into the forest. This has only deepened the mystique and terror surrounding the creature. However, there are more subtle psychological interpretations in modern times. The Wendigo has been depicted in various stories as a metaphor for addiction, insatiable greed, and the horror of becoming consumed by one's worst impulses. The Wendigo has been depicted in various stories as a metaphor for addiction, insatiable greed, and the horror of becoming consumed by one's worst impulses. In some cases, individuals who fall prey to the Wendigo are described as losing their humanity to addiction or obsessive desires, becoming twisted and monstrous as they give in to their obsessions. One of the most intriguing aspects of Wendigo folklore is the concept of Wendigo psychosis, a term coined by early European settlers in North America. It refers to a condition in which individuals, often suffering from extreme hunger or isolation, develop an uncontrollable desire to consume human flesh. There were documented cases, particularly during long winters or famines, where people in isolated communities began to believe they had become possessed by the Wendigo spirit. In their desperation, they were driven to commit acts of cannibalism. Wendigo psychosis is considered a form of cultural belief rather than a recognized medical condition. Still, it is often used to explain cases of cannibalism that occur during times of extreme scarcity. The idea is that individuals in a state of profound hunger, particularly in areas with harsh winters, might be psychologically overwhelmed and driven to this extreme behavior while also experiencing a spiritual or psychological breakdown that made them feel as though they were becoming Wendigos themselves. The Wendigo is not just a mindless predator. It is said to carry a curse. Those who fall victim to the Wendigo's hunger or become Wendigos themselves are doomed to wander the earth forever, trapped in their monstrous form, never able to satisfy their endless hunger. The curse of the Wendigo is inescapable and eternal, reflecting the idea that moral corruption, whether through greed, cannibalism, or unchecked desire, leads to spiritual damnation. In contemporary culture, the Wendigo is sometimes used as a metaphor for humanity's darkest impulses. It appears in various media, from Stephen King's Pet Sematary to video games like Until Dawn and films like The Ritual and Antlers. These portrayals often keep the core idea of the Wendigo as a terrifying, insatiable creature while also exploring the psychological and symbolic aspects of the myth. It remains a chilling reminder of how survival, greed, and the abuse of power can transform people into something monstrous and unrecognizable. In some Native American cultures, the Wendigo myth is still told today, often emphasizing teaching young people about the dangers of selfishness, greed, and the loss of one's humanity. It serves as a moral lesson, warning against the dehumanizing effects of unchecked desires, particularly when survival becomes a primary focus. The Wendigo is a creature born from fear of isolation, hunger, and losing control. It represents the fragility of human soul when faced with the harshest elements of nature and the worst aspects of human nature itself. Whether viewed as a physical monster or psychological terror, the Wendigo remains one of the world's most compelling and terrifying cryptids, an embodiment of the darkness that lies just beneath the surface of human civilization. That concludes this lore. If you like what you heard, please like, comment, and subscribe, and stay tuned for the next lore. Bye.